How cool and how big are these worms? It'd certainly be cool if I made a hell of a lot more of them. So stick around. I'm going to show you how to make a little mini compost heap for your worms and tell you about the benefits of making one. Welcome to Beach's Scaly Beasts, where I focus on the natural keeping of herpetofauna and marine aquaria. Hey, how's it going? So welcome back to another video here, guys. In this video, we're talking about making a little worm farm for these European night crawlers, these gigantic, chunky, meaty earthworms. So you guys have seen me use these in some of my enclosures in the past, but I needed to create some more of them, and there's going to be a whole bunch of reasons as to why I actually want to do this, and I'm going to explain those to you now. So these little chunky earthworms here, they're going to be so valuable for quite a few reasons. One of the best reasons to actually start this little farm up is the fact that these guys can be a food source for some of my animals. So things like my Boyd's forest dragons, my frillneck, my bearded dragon, my turtles, they're all going to get into them. Some of the monitors might even enjoy an earthworm here and there. I don't know about that, but we'll test out the theory should the time come. Another awesome reason for having these earthworms here is the fact that these guys are going to create worm poop or worm castings, which in turn is really, really good stuff to be putting in with your bioactive terrarium to help your plants thrive. So another reason you might want to start up a little worm farm is the fact that you'll be able to use the juices that these guys create through compost and use that as a fertilizer inside of your terrariums. It's a really natural way to make some good fertilizer that your plants are absolutely going to love, and you know what's gone into it because you're the one that's put it into the actual worm farm in the beginning. Probably the last reason, so reason number 4 as to why I want these guys around and why I want to create a little bit of a farm of them, is to actually use these guys inside the terrariums themselves. So by putting worms into these terrariums, these guys will then be breaking down things inside of the actual terrarium itself, creating its own worm castings that'll be feeding the terrarium inside of there. And, at the end of the day, we're trying to create ecosystems in boxes, and this is what I want to do and have it so self-sufficient that I don't have to do too much to it. So it's just another reason why I'm going to set these guys up now. So without any further ado, let's hop across and I'm going to show you how I'm going to make these guys into a little worm farm. So to make this little miniature worm farm, you're going to need some pretty simple stuff. Most of it can be picked up from reasonably cheap too, or even some of it can be free. So you're going to need, first of all, your worms. So you are going to need some of those, and I will be getting a whole stack more of these as well. This is just what I got for now. But you'll also be needing some newspaper, a couple of buckets, some coffee grounds. So I just got these from my mates down at the Drawing Board, my favourite coffee shop. You'll need some fly screen, some dechlorinated water, some food scraps, which I don't have right now, and also some garden compost as well. And it's going to be a pretty simple method of putting this together. So essentially, I'm going to chuck this together in a couple of minutes. Essentially, these two buckets are going to sit into each other like this. So you've got a top bucket and a bottom bucket. And if you can imagine, there's going to be a little bit of a layer down here near the bottom of the bucket, down here, where that worm tea is going to be able to collect. So this is essentially going to be our little compost heap. And to be able to get to the tea as well, you'll be able to slide the top bucket out super easy so you can actually get to the stuff in the bottom. And then of course, whatever's left in the top here, you're going to have all sorts of worm casting and some goodies in there that you can harvest as well as your worms. So the first thing we're going to do to one of these buckets is actually drill some holes inside of the base of it. And these are going to be for the drain holes that go into your worm tea collector. So as you can see, there's quite a few holes there. That should probably do the job. So the reason that you've actually got the fly screen as well is just to essentially make a layer that's going to be able to hold the dirt inside of the actual bucket and create a bit of a layer that the juices can drain through. So I'm just going to roughly cut this to size. It doesn't need to be perfect by any means. It's just got to be enough to cover those holes that we just created. Something simple like that. As you can see, not a perfect circle, but I'm just going to squish it down tight in the bottom of this bucket. It's just enough to cover up the majority of those holes. From there, I'll slide them into one another just in case any of the dirt does decide to drop through. I'm going to put my compost on the top of it. So I've probably made a layer in the realm of about 15 centimetres thick. And this is just an organic compost. There's nothing really else in there. But I will get started on putting some good coffee grounds into this as well. So I'm not going to put too much in, I don't want to go mental with it. But I'm just going to sprinkle a little bit of the coffee grounds into the top, maybe a couple of cups. And I'll give the rest to my father-in-law for his worm farms. So I'm just going to mix that through there a little bit. See how that goes. Next thing I'm actually going to do is add in these little worms. Definitely need to get a few more of these, but these little guys are going to be happy in here. A whole stack of them in there. I'm just going to sprinkle them out. It's a good starting point. Definitely need some more. I'll just give these guys a little light covering on top to make sure they're nice and secure. Now we're almost there. Next step is I'm just going to actually lay down some newspaper on top as a bit of a layer to hold a bit of the humidity in the bottom of this worm farm and keep them from not drying out. That should do. I'll add the lot in. We'll go from there. So on top of that, you want your dechlorinated water just to kind of moisten the paper so it doesn't dry out. Get a bit of this dirt down the sides as well. And a nice little spritz to keep those little worms nice and moist. Last but not least, I'm actually going to just chuck in this little tiny bit of pak choi on top here. Little worms can probably come up and eat it whenever they want to. Just to start off a bit of compost. So last thing we need is an actual lid. So this little lid here is going to work perfectly. It's already got a few holes drilled in top. I've used these buckets for fish and stuff in the past, so I'm just reusing stuff that I've got here. So this lid might allow a little bit of water and stuff to collect inside the actual bucket itself. I am going to probably be protecting it with another lid, just to try to stop anything actually getting inside of there water-wise. Don't really want frogs or anything that are out in the outside area there getting into it either. So I'll keep this nice and tight now, really get it down. Nothing's going to get in there unless you can get through the gap, so I might end up with a couple of fly maggots or something like that in there as well. It's all going to be part of it. I might even just leave this inside the garage here, just for the ease and fact that it's going to be inside and kept nice and cool, and then it won't get rained on, so it's probably not a bad idea. I can probably keep a better eye on it as well and just make sure that I am actually spraying it down and giving it the moisture that it does need. And looking after these little worms, just the way that they should be looked after. So yeah, there we go. Just a simple way to make a little tiny miniature compost out of a couple of buckets and a few spare parts. Well, there you have it, guys. Just a simple video of how to make a little compost heap out of a couple of buckets and a few bits and pieces. I hope you guys really enjoyed the video. Make sure to give it a like, drop it a comment, subscribe if you'd like to as well. I'd really appreciate that. And go and check out Teespring for some merch, and check out Patreon as well while you're there. The links for those two websites will be in the description below. And I shall see you guys on the next video. Take care now.